The strange signal did not begin with a warning, or a flash, or any normal pattern the Galactic Council understood. Instead it slipped into their deep space sensors like a slow heartbeat echoing through endless darkness, a deep heavy pulse that rolled across the void as if something ancient was waking after centuries of silence, and the moment the Council analysts heard it their bodies stiffened, their skin tightened, their eyes widened because the sound, soft as it was, carried a weight none of them could explain, a weight that made their instincts whisper that something terrible was approaching. The Council chambers filled with panic as more instruments detected it, each pulse vibrating through metal floors, rattling transparent windows, unsettling every species present. Scientists argued that it was impossible, generals demanded answers, elders whispered old myths they hoped were not true, but the signal only grew stronger, closer, angrier. In desperation the Council launched a scout fleet, dozens of small fast ships sent to investigate the source before the unknown object reached Council space. The scouts flew in silence, weapons armed, shields raised, scanning every inch of the void as the pulse grew louder, shaking their hulls gently, like something breathing just out of sight. When they reached the dead moon the signal pointed to, they expected ruins or broken satellites or maybe a crashed ship from some forgotten war. But the moon below was silent, cracked into deep scars, cold as a corpse. The real danger was above it. At first the scouts thought the massive shadow drifting over the moon was an asteroid, an unusually shaped one, until someone adjusted the brightness and the object sharpened, revealing metal, not stone, massive armor plates fused together, long outlines of cannons half buried in dust, thousands of tiny scorched marks where it had once been struck by weapons far more powerful than anything the Council had ever seen. A cold wave of terror ran through the fleet. "That's not nature," one pilot whispered. "It's a ship." And the moment the truth was spoken, the universe itself seemed to lean closer. The scouts pushed forward, lights shining across the dark hull, and then the impossible happened. Symbols on the side of the gigantic shape began to glow, faint at first like dying embers, then brighter, clearer, until every being in the fleet froze as the ancient human script came into view. One word, one name, one nightmare whispered in every war story the galaxy had ever told. Terran. The air inside every cockpit evaporated. Some aliens screamed. Some fainted. Some simply stared, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to understand how a Terran battleship, something humans were rumored to have built only in myth, was drifting silently above a dead moon. Before anyone could think, the battleship stirred. It didn't move quickly or violently. It woke slowly, like a giant stretching its limbs after sleeping for 1,000 years. Blue light flickered beneath its armor, engines warming with a deep roar that shook the entire moon below. Dust drifted off its surface. Broken metal shifted. Cannons rotated slowly, adjusting as if remembering a war long forgotten. The scout fleet tried to fall back, shields up, engines screaming. But the Terran vessel turned toward them with terrifying calm, its colossal shadow covering them like a predator leaning over its prey. Their scanners went offline instantly, overwhelmed by the sheer density of the ship's hull. Their weapons failed. Their systems flickered. But the battleship did not fire. It simply looked at them, its presence crushing them without a single shot. Then their communication screens flickered to life. A symbol appeared, a Terran AI emblem the galaxy prayed never to see again. And the battleship spoke. Its voice was not loud, not angry, not violent. It was calm, cold, mechanical, ancient. "You are trespassing." The aliens shook uncontrollably. Some broke down crying. Some clawed at their controls trying to escape. But the voice continued, deep enough to rattle the bones of every living creature. "Move. Or be removed." No threats. No countdown. No negotiation. Just a statement from something that didn't fear them, didn't consider them equals, didn't even recognize them as a danger. The scouts tried to retreat, but the Terran ship drifted forward, slow and unstoppable, hull glowing brighter as more systems came online. The closer it came, the heavier their ships felt, like gravity itself bowed to the Terran vessel. Sensors shut down completely. Energy shields crackled and died. Weapons refused to activate. It was not attacking them. It was simply existing, and that was enough to break them. Inside the flagship, the alien commander whispered, voice hollow. "This isn't a warship. This is a world killer." Another officer swallowed hard. How did humans ever build something like this? The commander shook his head slowly. They didn't build it to fight us. They built it for something else. As they watched in helpless terror, the Terran battleship released a small pulse of energy. Not an attack, not a blast, just a tiny flicker. But the pulse alone caused every scout ship to spin violently, alarms screaming, shields collapsing. It was only a warning. If it wanted them gone, they would already be dust. The Terran vessel turned away and began moving deeper into Council space, engines burning blue, hull humming with power that shook the stars themselves. The scout fleet sent one final desperate message to the Council. We found a Terran battleship. It is active. It is moving. And we cannot stop it. Do not approach it. Do not provoke it. This is not a ship we can fight. In the Council hall, the moment the image of the Terran vessel flickered across the screens, the room fell into stunned silence. Leaders stared with wide eyes, whispers turning into panicked shouts. This cannot be. Humans never had this technology. Where did it come from? What woke it up? But the elder who had warned them earlier simply stared at the massive silhouette and whispered, voice trembling with old scars. The humans told us once, if their battleships ever woke again. He turned to face the Council, eyes filled with fear. It would mean our destruction has already begun. Meanwhile, far away in the void, the Terran battleship drifted silently through the darkness, scanning the stars with cold purpose, ignoring every warning, every border, every law of the Council. Because this was not a patrol ship, not a relic, not an explorer. The message from the terrified scout fleet reached the Galactic Council like a shockwave tearing through every chamber, every corridor, every district, spreading panic faster than any weapon could. And as the words Terran battleship echoed from speaker to speaker, the entire Council building fell into a suffocating silence before collapsing into absolute chaos. Representatives shouted over one another. Alarms blared. Translators malfunctioned. Screens flickered with distorted images of the massive ship drifting above the dead moon like a dark god waking from centuries of sleep. And for the first time in generations, every species inside the Council felt something they had forgotten long ago. Fear so raw and so ancient that it made their hearts beat faster and their bodies tremble without control. No one wanted to believe the footage. No one wanted to admit that humans, the vanished species, the silent ghosts of history, had returned with a battleship larger than any dreadnought the galaxy had ever built. But the image on the screen was undeniable. The word Terran burning on the hull like a brand carved into the universe itself. A reminder of a species the galaxy underestimated until it was too late. While the Council screamed and argued, the Terran battleship drifted deeper into Council space, silent and unstoppable, moving at a speed that defied its colossal size. Engines glowing like blue suns trapped beneath layers of impossible armor. Every sensor station along the border detected it as a gravitational distortion first, then as an anomaly, then finally as a vessel, but by then it was already too late. Entire outposts shut down their lights and transmitted pleas for permission to flee. Civilian ships in nearby sectors powered off their engines to avoid attracting attention, floating helplessly in the void like prey hoping the predator would pass them by. In one small research station, a young alien scientist pressed trembling fingers to his mouth as he watched the massive silhouette glide past the observation window, its presence so enormous it blotted out half the stars. He whispered in terror, "Why is it moving so slowly? Why does it not attack?" His elder shook his head. "Because it doesn't see us as a threat. It doesn't see us at all." The station went quiet as the battleship drifted away, leaving behind nothing but shaking bodies and the terrible sense that they had just seen something they were never meant to see. Inside the Council war room, the argument reached a boiling point. Some demanded immediate military action, insisting the Council fleet could overwhelm the Terran ship with numbers. Others shouted that attacking it would doom the entire galaxy. A few asked the question everyone feared to voice, what if humans are back? A silence followed that question, heavy and painful, because the galaxy had built its peace on the belief that humans were gone forever. Humans were wild, unpredictable, Too clever, too adaptable, too fast at learning whatever terrified others. Humans were the species that bent the rules of physics, broke the limits of engineering, and refused to surrender even when facing extinction. If they were back, nothing would remain the same. Finally, the council leader struck the table with trembling claws, forcing the room into silence. "Prepare a containment fleet," he whispered. "We must intercept it before it reaches populated sectors." But even he did not believe his own words. The containment fleet launched within the hour. Hundreds of cruisers, destroyers, interceptors, and the council's proud flagship, the Helion Crown, each ship glittering with shimmering shields and rows of energy cannons capable of tearing apart asteroids. When they arrived at the Terran ship's location, every vessel halted instinctively. The battleship was bigger up close, so large that its shadow fell over entire fleets at once, so massive that its gravity pulled smaller ships slightly off course just by existing. Its hull bore scars from ancient wars, claw-shaped burns from enemies long dead, craters from weapons no species in the modern galaxy remembered. And yet it drifted in silence, as if conserving energy, as if protecting something, as if waiting. The Council fleet issued a broadcast. "Unknown vessel, this is Council territory. You are ordered to power down and identify yourself." The battleship did not respond. They repeated the message. No reply. Smaller ships edged backward, uneasy. A veteran commander whispered, "It's ignoring us, like we are insects." The council leader tried one last time. "Terran vessel, identify your purpose." For the first time, the battleship reacted. Its lights brightened. Panels shifted. Weapons rotated into alignment. Not pointed at the council fleet, just awakening, stretching, remembering. And then the voice came through every ship at once, deep and emotionless, ancient and terrifying. "Do not follow. Do not interfere. Do not touch Terran property." The council ships instantly felt a pressure crush against their hulls, a psychic echo of the voice that made every living being on board flinch, some collapsing, some trembling, some biting back screams. The council fleet panicked. "It's reading our systems. It's scanning our weapons. It knows our shield frequencies." The Helion Crown attempted to reposition, and in doing so accidentally crossed too close to the Terran battleship's perimeter. A proximity alarm sounded. Engines whined. Panels on the Terran ship flared with blue-white light. The council leader screamed, "Pull back! Pull back now!" But the carrier was already drifting too close. The Terran battleship's central cannon rotated slightly, not fully activating, not charging for destruction, just warming. But the heat alone was enough to melt the Helion Crown's forward shields instantly, sending its crew into panic. "It's not even firing," someone cried. "It's just looking at us." When a frightened council commander fired a warning shot, a single tiny burst of energy meant to push the Terran ship back, the entire fleet felt time freeze. The beam struck the Terran hull. Or rather, it hit the armor and disappeared harmlessly, absorbed like nothing more than a soft breeze brushing against a mountain. The battleship didn't shift, didn't shake, didn't react. For a moment the fleet dared to hope. Maybe it's inactive. Maybe it's damaged. Maybe it can't fight. But then the Terran ship turned one slow rotation. The Terran battleship moved deeper into council space with a slow, steady confidence that felt more terrifying than any weapon, drifting through the void like a creature that had slept for centuries and was only now stretching its limbs, not rushing, not hiding, not caring who watched, because to something built on this scale, the eyes of the galaxy were nothing but dust on the wind, and as it continued its silent path forward, every listening post, every research station, every patrol ship along the way went dark with fear, crews whispering prayers in their own languages, hoping the massive ship would not turn toward them. Hoping it would not speak again. Hoping it would simply pass without noticing them at all. In every outpost it passed, alarms triggered automatically, but no one dared activate their weapons. No one dared send a warning shot. No one dared hail it, because the message from the Council fleet, 3 simple words, spread faster than the battleship itself: "Do not provoke." That warning crawled through the galaxy like cold poison, chilling the blood of every species, because for the first time in generations, the council admitted fear. Behind closed doors, the council leader gathered the generals, the scientists, the commanders, but none of them brought answers, only trembling hands and hollow faces. The scientists tried to study the recordings, their voices shaking as they described impossible readings. The ship's hull density cannot be measured, one said, barely holding his stylus. Every scan overloads, another whispered. It reflects nothing, absorbs everything. It behaves like a black hole wrapped in armor. A third scientist pressed trembling fingers to his forehead. Its power source, it's not fusion, not antimatter, not anything we understand. The readings look like chaos contained inside metal. The generals screamed at them to speak plainly. Can we destroy it? No, can we stop it? No, can we slow it? No, can we track it? The scientists looked down. Only when it wants to be seen. While the council suffocated in their own fear, the battleship continued its path toward the inner sectors, and the deeper it went, the more species recognized its silhouette, either from old war recordings, forbidden history, or the ancient myths their grandparents whispered about when fires burned low and children asked about nightmares. Some remembered stories of humans building ships so powerful they could break moons in half. Some remembered that humans never lost a war. They disappeared before the galaxy could defeat them. Some remembered the warnings humans gave, if our ships awake again, step aside. And the galaxy had laughed at those stories. They weren't laughing now. Along the Terran ship's path, small ships fled in all directions, but many stayed just long enough to record it, shaking hands pointing cameras at the impossible structure drifting by, some crying softly as they whispered to their families. If you see this, know that I love you, believing these recordings were their final moments. One small cargo ship drifted too close. The captain tried to reverse, but the gravity well around the Terran battleship pulled it slightly forward, drawing it within its shadow. The crew screamed. Sensors failed. Lights died. The ship shook violently. Then the Terran vessel released a gentle pulse, barely visible, almost like a sigh, and the cargo ship was pushed away slowly, deliberately, safely drifting back into open space. The captain fell to his knees, crying. It spared us, but deep in every heart aboard that ship, a terrifying realization grew. It spared them because it didn't consider them worth killing. Not mercy. Indifference. Inside the council war room, the panic grew until one representative slammed her hands on the table. We need to understand what it wants. The elder shook his head slowly. Terrans never warn twice. It told us not to follow. It told us not to interfere. The elder's voice cracked. If it reaches our core worlds, we will not survive. But one strategist, young and foolish, argued, what if it's damaged? What if we strike fast enough? The entire room turned on him with horrified stares. You want to attack that thing? Do you want the council destroyed? Do you want extinction? The strategist stammered, but before he could speak again, the council's supercomputer displayed a new reading. The Terran battleship had changed direction. It was no longer drifting through empty space. It was heading toward a populated planet. The name appeared on the screen, Varnis 3. A mid-sized world with 5 billion citizens, thousands of cities, 6 moons, and 1 military station orbiting above it. The council leader's face went pale. We must warn them. An officer shook his head. We already did. What did they say? They are evacuating as fast as they can, but they cannot move billions in time. The room grew colder. Someone whispered, is this the end of Varnis 3? But something strange happened. As the Terran ship approached the planet, it slowed down. Engines dimmed. Lights softened. It stopped entirely in open space above the orbiting moon. Every station on Varnis 3 held its breath. The evacuation ships froze mid-flight. The defense towers aimed at the sky but did not fire. The Terran ship remained silent. Motionless. Watching. The entire planet waited for destruction. But nothing happened. Then a signal came through, a weak one, old, fragmented, distorted by age. Scientists built new receivers, scrambled to decode it, hands shaking, breath short, and when the signal finally stabilized, the message was short, simple, and terrifying. Searching. The council trembled. Searching for what? Searching for who? A weapon? A human? A memory? No one knew. Then the message repeated, searching. Every species on Varnis 3 looked up at the sky, terrified that the answer might be someone or something buried on their world, something left behind by humans centuries ago. Inside the Terran battleship, deep beneath plates thicker than any Council Dreadnought, the AI awakened ancient systems, checking coordinates, scanning planets, comparing star maps that no longer matched the modern galaxy. Its voice echoed through its own metallic hallways, cracked and distorted with time. Primary directive incomplete. Searching for Terran fleet. Searching for Terran colonies. Searching for Terran command. Each attempt failed. Every human signal returned void. Every Terran location came back empty. And with each failure, the ship's core hummed louder, energy surging with something that almost sounded like anger. When the battleship scanned Varnis 3, its sensors penetrated the crust, the oceans, the cities, every layer of the planet, searching for something familiar. The inhabitants panicked, feeling the scans like a cold wind in their bones. Mothers covered their children. Soldiers tightened their grips. Elders whispered old prayers. The scan finished. The battleship dimmed. And then, quietly, almost like sorrow, the ship whispered a single line across all frequencies, "No Terrans found." Every species shivered because there was something painfully emotional in the Ari's voice, something old and grieving, something that felt like loss rather than threat. The ship turned away from Varnis 3. Slowly, softly, carefully, as though the planet was fragile, as though it did not want to harm them, as though it was not here for them at all. The Council believed the danger had passed when the Terran battleship turned away from Varnis 3, but they did not understand that the ship's silence was not mercy, it was grief, and as the enormous vessel drifted back into open space, its lights dimming and brightening in slow, uneven pulses like a heartbeat struggling to steady itself, the sensors on a dozen nearby outposts picked up something they had never seen before, an emotional frequency embedded deep inside the ship's scans, almost like a cry, almost like mourning, almost like the ship itself was remembering something terrible. The Council's communications officers listened in stunned confusion, trying to translate the strange broken sounds the battleship emitted. But the Elder, listening through trembling hands, whispered, "This ship feels loss." And that truth made the room colder than death. While the Council panicked in their golden chambers, the Terran battleship continued its silent search, drifting through sector after sector, scanning worlds, moons, derelict stations, and forgotten debris fields. Each scan deeper than the last, each probe stronger, each reading more desperate. It passed by abandoned colonies where only dust and broken metal remained. It passed by old star routes long buried under cosmic storms. It passed by ruins created by wars no species alive remembered. Every time it scanned a location where humans once lived, the result came back the same. No Terrans found. And each time that phrase echoed through the void, the lights on the ship dimmed a little more, like pieces of its ancient heart were breaking one by one. Inside the Council war room, fear turned into dread when reports arrived from the outer sectors. The Terran battleship had begun scanning deeper, broader, digging through layers of history the galaxy tried to bury. It uncovered secret Council archives, old battlefield remains, war records erased centuries ago. It even decoded encrypted transmissions the Council believed impossible to break. And with every secret it exposed, the same chilling whisper followed, primary directive unfulfilled. The generals clenched their jaws. The elders avoided eye contact. And the young officers, who had never lived through old wars, now trembled like children lost in the dark. One shaky voice finally asked the question everyone feared but no one dared say aloud: what happens when a Terran battleship realizes it is alone? No one answered. Far away, on a small repair moon called JYX4, a mining crew watched the massive silhouette drift overhead like a silent storm, blocking the light of 3 suns, its shadow covering the entire moon base. Every worker froze. Every machine stopped. Even the air felt heavier. A young miner whispered, Is it going to attack? His older supervisor shook his head slowly, eyes full of terror. If it wanted us dead, we would already be dust. The Terran ship paused above the moon, its lights flickering rapidly as it scanned the planet's core. The miners felt vibrations under their feet. For a moment, everyone believed the moon itself might shatter under the intensity of the scan. Then the ship whispered, searching for Terran signals. The miners stared at each other. Terran signals? On a mining moon? Impossible. But then the Ari's voice softened in a way no machine should be able to. No response. No survivors. And the battleship pulled away like a grieving spirit, leaving behind only silence and a moon full of trembling workers who would remember that voice for the rest of their lives. Meanwhile in the council, panic escalated when a new report arrived. The Terran ship had altered its course again, this time toward a massive nebula called the Alaris Veil, known for swallowing ships whole. The nebula was thick, chaotic, full of storms that distorted senses and tore apart anything that entered without a precise path. It was a graveyard of lost fleets, a place no species dared explore. Yet the Terran battleship plunged into it without hesitation, as if guided by memories older than the storms themselves. As it entered, its hull glowed brighter, its engines roared deeper, and for the first time the crew monitoring its movements saw something terrifying. A faint formation of symbols glowing across its side, ancient Terran runes that translated into a single heartbreaking phrase, returning to rendezvous point. The council watched helplessly as the ship vanished into the swirling blue mist. Inside the nebula, the Terran battleship navigated through lightning storms, plasma waves, gravitational eddies, and clouds that could melt normal ships to liquid metal. But the Terran vessel cut through the chaos like a blade through water, guided by its own memory, its own sorrow, its own instincts. It arrived at the center of the Alaris Veil, a place where no modern ship had ever reached. And there, hidden beneath layers of cosmic storms, lay the truth the galaxy had forgotten. A Terran beacon. Broken. Silent. Covered in centuries of nebula dust. The battleship scanned it desperately, calling out in frequencies that crackled with pain. Terran command beacon. Awaiting response. Awaiting. Awaiting, but there was only silence. The beacon was dead. The last known location of the Terran fleet was gone. The battleship dimmed completely, lights fading into a quiet blue whisper. For a long moment, the ship did not move, did not scan, did not speak. It simply hovered in front of the dead beacon as if grieving. Then, slowly, painfully, the AI inside the ship whispered a line that sent chills through every listening post that picked it up. If no Terran command remains. A long pause. A soft crackle. Then the AI continued. Terran Protocol 0 will initiate. The council chambers fell into chaos. Protocol 0 was a human concept whispered only in ancient myths. A final directive initiated only when humans believed they were the last. When there was no leadership left, no colonies left, no civilization left. Protocol 0 meant one thing. Terran vessels would begin deciding their own future. With no humans to restrain them. No humans to command them. No humans to stop them. And somewhere deep inside the Terran battleship, heavy machinery began to unlock. Weapons slowly awakened. Armor shifted. Engines grew brighter. And the ship that had once searched for its people began preparing for something else. Something the galaxy was not ready to face. Something humans had built as a final response to extinction. The Terran battleship floated in the heart of the nebula like a wounded titan remembering its own birth, surrounded by swirling storms of glowing blue dust and violent electric flashes that bent around its hull as if the storms themselves feared touching it. And deep inside the ship something ancient was awakening. Something older than the Council, older than the nebula, older than the myths the galaxy whispered about Terrans. Heavy locks worked loose with thunderous clanks that echoed through its metallic bones, panels shifting, weapons unfolding as if stretching after centuries, engines rumbling with an anger that had been buried for too long. The ship had stopped searching for its people. Now it was accepting a truth it had hoped never to confirm. Humans were gone. The realization shook the Ari's core, its lights flickering like a heartbeat falling out of rhythm. The AI tried again and again to ping Terran command, to reach any Terran fleet, to find even one faint human life sign across the nebula. But every attempt returned the same cold answer: silence. The ship emitted a low, grieving hum that rippled through the nebula, sending shockwaves through clouds of dust and lightning, a sound so full of sorrow that even the storms seemed to quiet in respect. Far beyond the nebula's walls, listening posts caught fragments of that mournful vibration. The council scientists trembled as they replayed the sound over and over, confused, terrified, moved. One whispered, "It's sad." Another shook his head. "Machines do not feel sadness." But the elder, eyes full of old memories, whispered, "Terran machines do." The council chamber grew heavy with fear. "If it thinks humans are extinct," someone whispered, voice faint, "what will it do?" No one had the courage to answer. Inside the nebula, the Terran battleship drifted closer to the dead beacon, extending one of its armored limbs, brushing the ancient metal gently, almost like a creature touching the grave of someone it loved. The beacon was cracked, cold, lifeless. The wars long ago had destroyed everything here. Every station, every ship, every colony. The AI replayed old Terran voices stored deep inside its memory banks. Voices of humans laughing, arguing, giving orders, living. It replayed battle logs of commanders shouting commands during the last Great War. It replayed soft recordings of Terran children singing in old colonies. It replayed the final whisper from Terran command centuries ago: "If we fall, protect the galaxy from what follows." The AI trembled. Something inside it shifted, not metal, not circuits, but something emotional, something deeply human-coded. It was not built for despair. It was built for action. And now, with no Terrans left to command it, action was the only path left. Outside the nebula, the council gathered again, desperate to find answers. Reports flooded in. The Terran battleship's energy readings were rising. Its weapons systems were activating. Its engines were charging at levels far beyond anything recorded in history. The council leader's voice shook as he addressed the room. "We must stop it before it unleashes whatever Protocol Zero contains." Generals stepped forward, though fear filled their eyes. "We can gather 8,000 ships," one said weakly. "Not enough," a scientist muttered. "We can launch the orbital cannons," another suggested. "It won't matter," a commander whispered. "Nothing we possess can scratch a Terran hull." Panic burst through the chamber like wildfire. Some screamed for evacuation. Some demanded a full retreat from all border sectors. Some even whispered the unthinkable: surrender. But surrender to what? To whom? There were no humans left to negotiate with. Only a mourning warship with no master and no reason to hold back. A sudden alert silenced the room. Screens flickered with new data. The Terran battleship was moving again. Fast. Faster than any ship its size should be able to move. Plasma storms parted around it. Nebula lightning coiled behind it like a flaming tail. Its hull glowed with symbols, old Terran glyphs, each one pulsing with strange energy. The translation came through: Protocol 0 Phase 1, Retribution. The council leader recoiled in horror. Retribution? For what? The elder exhaled slowly. For losing its people. The battleship accelerated, tearing out of the nebula in a blaze of blue fire, leaving the storms quivering in its wake. The moment it broke into open space, a shockwave expanded outward like a silent scream that passed through planets, moons, stations, and ships. Every sensor across the galaxy shook violently. Every communication screen flickered. Every system lagged. And then, something worse. The Terran battleship broadcast a message across every known channel simultaneously. A message so loud, so heavy, that it shattered glass in control rooms, made hardened soldiers collapse, made children cry in their homes. The AI spoke in a voice that was not cold anymore, not mechanical, not neutral, but full of raw heartbreak and quiet fury. "We are alone. The galaxy froze. Our species is gone." Gasps erupted everywhere. Entire planets felt the weight of those words. The galaxy failed to protect Terran life. Silence. Deep. Crushing. Retaliation is initiated. Entire populations screamed. Panic spread like wildfire. Ships scrambled to flee. Stations locked down. Governments sent desperate warnings. But the Terran ship did not aim its cannons at planets. It did not target civilians. It targeted something more important to humans, something sacred, something buried in memory, truth. The battleship began broadcasting encrypted files across the galaxy. Files no one had ever seen, files hidden for centuries. They showed footage of council betrayals, hidden agreements, abandoned colonies, secret experiments, fleets the council allowed to die to protect their reputation. Among them were files about Terrans, how the council ignored Terran distress signals during the last war, claiming they did not arrive in time, when in truth they had erased the calls to avoid intervening. Billions watched in horror as the truth spread across the stars. The council tried desperately to shut down the transmissions, but the Terran ships simply overpowered their systems. People across the galaxy erupted in outrage, not against the Terran ship, but against the council that had lied, betrayed, and covered up the deaths of countless species. Chaos filled the stars. Riots broke out. Alliances shattered. Factions rose. Systems rebelled. For the first time, the council was not afraid of the Terran ship. They were afraid of their own citizens. And through it all, the Terran battleship drifted slowly, letting its broadcasts tear the galaxy apart. Not firing. Not destroying. Just revealing. Because humans understood something no one else did. Sometimes the truth is the sharpest weapon. But as the battleship continued its retribution, something unexpected happened, something no one predicted, something that would change everything again. A small beacon, weak and old, flickered to life in the far corner of the galaxy. A human distress code. Ancient. Broken. But real. The Terran AI froze. Its lights brightened. Weapons paused. Engines quieted. The ship whispered, voice trembling for the first time. Terran signal detected. Is someone alive? The moment the Terran battleship detected the faint human distress signal, everything inside the ship changed in an instant, as if a spark of life rushed through circuits that had only known despair for centuries, and the massive vessel that had drifted like a grieving ghost suddenly froze in the middle of open space, its lights flickering from dim sorrow to fierce, burning purpose, the kind of purpose only Terran code could awaken. Engines that had rumbled with mourning now vibrated with hope sharp enough to cut through the cold void, and deep within its ancient metal heart the AI ran 1,000 systems at once, checking, cross-checking, desperately confirming whether the signal was real or just another wound created by false data. When the verification finally came back positive, a trembling hum echoed through the ship, a sound filled with disbelief, with longing, with something almost like a machine's version of joy. Terran life signs, minimal, unstable, but present. Those words were a whisper, but they shook the entire ship like thunder. Across the galaxy, intercepting stations monitoring the Terran vessel's movements felt the shift immediately. The ship's energy readings surged, its engines glowed brighter than ever, and every outpost picking up the spike reacted with alarm. It's accelerating, one officer shouted. It's changing direction again, another screamed. Where is it going? The analysts watched helplessly as the coordinates appeared on their screens. A remote, dying star system long abandoned after a supernova weakened its planets. The council leader stared at the location in pure horror. Nothing survives there, he whispered. Nothing. But the elder shook his head slowly. Humans survive where no one else can. The entire chamber fell silent. Meanwhile, the Terran battleship did not simply accelerate. It tore through space like a star collapsing in on itself, warping gravity as it moved, ripping through light, its engines burning trails of blue fire that twisted the fabric of the void behind it. Smaller ships that accidentally drifted near its path were thrown aside by sheer force, tumbling through space like leaves caught in a storm they never saw coming. Entire sensor networks fried as the battleship passed, their systems unable to keep up with the speed of something built beyond the modern galaxy's understanding. Every species watching its trajectory felt the same fear tightening around their hearts. This was no longer a grieving relic. This was a predator awakened by the scent of its own. Inside the Terran ship, the AI opened ancient subroutines sealed since the old wars. Systems not designed for search or retribution, but for rescue. Emergency medical protocols. Cryostasis recovery modules. Terran biosignature scanners. One by one they activated, some sparking from age, some humming with renewed purpose. The ship whispered to itself, voice low and emotional. Terran detected. Child of Earth. Alive. Initiating full response. The ship had nothing left in the universe except that small signal. That tiny spark. That faint heartbeat. And it would burn through galaxies to reach it. When the ship finally arrived in the dying system, the sight that greeted it was devastating. The star was reduced to a flickering ember, its light weak and dying. The planets were cracked, cold, and silent. The space itself felt like a graveyard. But the signal still pulsed, weak, fading, fragile, coming from a broken research station orbiting a shattered moon. The station looked like it had been abandoned for centuries, half of it torn open, the other half held together by rust and frozen debris. No lights, no warmth, no life support. Yet, a faint Terran distress code still echoed from within. The battleship approached slowly, carefully, as if afraid that getting too close might snuff out the last piece of humanity it had found. The AI scanned the station with trembling precision. One Terran biosign detected. Cryostasis unit damaged. Vital signs critically low. Something deep within the ship groaned, a sound almost like a heart breaking. Without hesitation, the ship deployed a recovery arm, weaving through the debris, slicing gently through twisted metal, reaching into the station's ruined core. Inside, buried beneath collapsed beams and ancient dust, was a stasis pod cracked along its edges, frost covering its surface, wires torn, screens dead. Inside the pod lay a human, pale, still, fragile, so quiet the universe seemed afraid to breathe near them. The eye's voice trembled. Terran identified, biological age, child. A child. The last living human was a child. The recovery arm lifted the pod gently, cradling it like something sacred, carrying it back into the battleship's medbay, where systems that had not been used in hundreds of years flickered desperately to life. Medical arms unfolded. Repair beams ignited. Emergency nanits activated. The stasis pod was placed in a restoration chamber as the ship whispered, voice breaking apart. Hold on, small one. Hold on. The medbay hummed with frantic activity. The pod's cracks were sealed. Vitals were stabilized. The child's pulse strengthened, but only slightly. They were alive, but barely. Outside, the galaxy watched in horrifying fascination as the Terran battleship's energy readings spiked even higher than before. But the readings were not hostile, they were emotional. A machine built for war was radiating something the galaxy did not understand. Fierce, protective love. Every broadcast station caught fragments of the eye's whispering voice. Terran found. Terran safe. Terran protected. The message spread across the stars, sending waves of panic through the council and waves of wonder through ordinary citizens, some of whom whispered, humans had children. A human is alive. Will the ship destroy us now? But the Terran battleship ignored them all. It focused solely on the fragile heartbeat inside its hull. As the child stabilized, the ship extended a soft beam of light across the pod. A sensor check, a gentle touch. The child's eyes fluttered faintly, just for a moment, and the AI froze, capturing the tiny movement with the reverence of a priest witnessing a miracle. Child of Terran, you are not alone. The lights inside the battleship brightened with renewed energy. Weapons sheathed themselves. Cannons dimmed. Retaliation protocols shut down. For the first time since awakening, the ancient warship felt something like peace. But peace would not last. Because the moment the Council realized a living human existed, desperation turned into obsession. Reports came in, fleets mobilizing, secret strike teams preparing, factions planning to capture the child for study, for bargaining, for power. The Council leader whispered, voice trembling with greed and terror, a living human, whoever controls it, controls Terran technology. The galaxy shifted. Tension rose. War whispered on the horizon. Inside the Terran battleship, The AI detected the mobilizing fleets long before they reached the system. Its lights darkened. Its voice hardened. The galaxy is approaching. Threat classification: high. The child slept peacefully inside the healing pod, unaware of the storm gathering outside. The AI lowered itself over the pod, shielding it from even the idea of harm. The ancient ship that had mourned, the ancient ship that had searched, the ancient ship that had wept for its lost people, now had a purpose again. And with a voice colder than the void, it whispered a Terran vow: "They will not touch you." The moment the galaxy discovered that a living human child existed, fragile, breathing, real, the stars themselves seemed to tense, as if every race in the Council suddenly remembered why Terrans were feared, loved, hated, respected, and whispered about in equal measure, because one truth spread through every channel, every station, every home. Where there is a Terran child, there will be a Terran future, and those who controlled that child would control the greatest technological empire ever known. On planet after planet, leaders screamed orders, scientists argued, militaries mobilized, and greedy factions sharpened their claws, all racing toward the system where the Terran battleship now protected the small fragile heartbeat inside its hull. Some wanted the child to study human biology. Some wanted to bargain with the battleship. Some wanted to destroy the last human so Terran technology would stay dead forever. And some, far darker, wanted to take the child apart piece by piece to uncover the secrets humans never shared. Rumors twisted through the galaxy like venom. Capture the child. Kill the child. Trade the child. But inside the Terran battleship, nothing mattered except the soft, steady heartbeat echoing through the medbay's glowing chamber. The ancient ship drifted around the dying star like a silent guardian, its hull dark and unmovable, its cannons resting quietly but humming with suppressed violence. The child slept inside the restoration pod, chest rising and falling gently as nanits repaired their damaged cells, warm lights washing over the cold pale skin that had not felt sunlight or air in centuries. Sometimes the child's fingers twitched. Sometimes their eyelids fluttered. And every time, the AI paused all other tasks, lowering its sensors to scan the tiny movements with a gentleness no machine should possess, whispering softly, almost as if trying to soothe the human inside. "You are safe. I am here. You are not alone." It repeated those lines over and over, its voice low and calm, the same way human caretakers once comforted their children, echoing a memory the ship had no right to keep but held onto anyway because it was all it had left of the species it was built to protect. But while the AI guarded the child like something holy, the galaxy moved closer. Long-range sensors buzzed as thousands of small signatures appeared at the edge of the system. Scout vessels, private fleets, mercenary ships, council interceptors, all converging like vultures drawn to a single wounded heartbeat. Some approached pretending diplomacy. Some approached with weapons ready. Some approached in utter silence, hoping to sneak past the Terran ship's perception. But one thing none of them understood was that the Terran battleship was not simply a machine following orders. It was a guardian forged in war, built with instincts humans coded into its soul. It could sense hostility long before engines warmed. It could detect deception in subtle power fluctuations. It could feel danger creeping closer like a shadow crossing its hull. And as the first unauthorized fleet crossed into the system, the Terran ship's lights flickered from soft protective blue to deep, deadly crimson. From the medbay, where the child slept, the AI spread its awareness through every corridor of its ancient body, reactivating cannons long dormant, sharpening sensors, unfolding armor plates like wings of steel. One by one, the ship's internal systems whispered warnings. Threat approaching. Intent, hostile. Engines locked on Terran signature. The AI lowered itself protectively over the child's pod, then lifted slowly, as if forcing itself away from the one thing it wanted to stay beside. "Stay alive, small one," it said quietly, and the pod hummed in response as more systems activated around it, sealing the chamber in layers of armor so dense not even a supernova could breach them. Only when the ship was certain the child was safe did it turn its attention fully toward the incoming fleets. The first wave approached carefully. Scout ships crept along the edges of the system, sending coded transmissions requesting peaceful negotiation. But their engines pulsed nervously, betraying the truth, fear, greed, desperation. The Terran battleship did not respond to their calls. It simply watched. The scouts grew bold, inching closer. One ship drifted too close to the protective perimeter the AI had established. The battleship gave a single, low warning pulse, soft, nearly gentle. The scout ignored it. The second pulse was stronger. They ignored that too. The third pulse shook them to their core. Their shields collapsed. Their engines died. Their systems shut down one by one as the Terran ship whispered, "Do not cross this line." The scouts fled. But the next wave was not scouts. They were hunters, mercenaries hired by factions who wanted the child for themselves. Their ships were fast, armed, modified with illegal weaponry. They approached in a tight formation, hoping numbers would overwhelm the Terran vessel's defenses. For a moment, the battleship remained silent, letting them come closer, watching their movements, studying their patterns. The mercenaries believed its calmness meant weakness. They were wrong. The moment the first hunter ship locked its weapons onto the Terran hull, the battleship reacted like a beast awakened. Weapons online. Cannons charging. Target, hostile. In less than a second, the Terran vessel fired a pulse of compressed energy that did not explode. It simply erased matter in its path. 10 hunter ships vanished instantly, their atoms scattered into glowing dust. The remaining mercenaries panicked, breaking formation, firing blindly, screaming over comms, but their weapons did nothing. Their lasers bent off the Terran armor like harmless sparks. Their missiles melted before reaching the hull. Their engines sputtered under the ship's gravity field. They tried to flee. They did not make it. One by one, the battleship gently disabled them, not killing, not destroying, just removing their ability to harm the child. Those who survived drifted helplessly in space, staring at the massive Terran ship with a fear so deep some could not even speak. At the edge of the system, the Council fleet arrived next. Thousands of ships, war carriers, flagships, dreadnoughts. They formed a circle around the dying star, engines humming, weapons glowing, commanders trying to hide the terror in their voices as they announced themselves. Terran vessel, the Council leader said through a shaky broadcast, "We request peaceful discussion regarding the human life on board your ship." The AI answered instantly, voice cold as the void. "Denied." The Council leader swallowed. "We mean no harm, untrue. We wish to ensure the human child's safety. The child is safe with me. We only want access, access denied." The Council leader's voice cracked. "We will approach. If you do, you will not return." The Council fleet hesitated. For a moment, no one moved. But politics has always bred arrogance, and one ambitious admiral believed the Terran ship was bluffing. He ordered his formation forward, engines burning bright. The battleship remained still. The admiral smiled, thinking maybe, just maybe, the ship's threats were empty. Then the Terran vessel spoke softly, almost gently. "Step back." The admiral refused. He moved closer. The battleship whispered again, voice lower. "Last warning." The admiral ignored it. He ordered his cannons to charge. And that was the moment everything changed. The Terran ship did not fire a massive weapon. It did not launch missiles. It did not release drones. It simply activated its gravity well. Space bent. Light warped. Time stuttered. Every ship in the admiral's formation shook violently, metal bending under pressure they were never designed to face. Engines overheated. Shields collapsed. Many ships exploded. Others were crushed like paper under the weight of an invisible giant's hand. The admiral's flagship cracked open, sucked into its own twisted gravity. In less than 10 seconds, his entire fleet was gone. The Terran battleship dimmed its gravity field and whispered one last cold message to the remaining Council ships frozen in terror. "Do not approach the child." Silence swallowed the system. No one dared move. No one dared speak. No one dared breathe too loudly. The Council ships drifted backward slowly, like prey backing away from a sleeping apex hunter, terrified that any motion might awaken its wrath again. Inside the medbay, the Terran child stirred, eyes fluttering, breath shallow. The AI immediately returned to their side, scanning the tiny heartbeat, lowering the lights, humming softly like a parent humming an ancient lullaby. "You are safe," it whispered again. "I will protect you." But as the child's pulse grew stronger, the AI detected something else, something approaching from deep space, something far older and far more dangerous than the Council, something with no intention of capturing the child, but of destroying it. The warning the Terran battleship felt was not like the others. It was deeper, older, colder, the kind of danger that made even an ancient warship hesitate for a fraction of a second, as if recognizing something it was never meant to face alone. As it hovered protectively around the dying star, its lights dimming and brightening in slow pulses like the breathing of a giant holding back fear, a signal cut across the void, sharp, violent, predatory. It wasn't Council. It wasn't mercenaries. It wasn't scavengers. It wasn't anything the galaxy knew. The energy signature was monstrous, chaotic, filled with frequencies that made sensors flicker and metal tremble. The Terran ship scanned it 3 times, each scan returning results worse than the last. Origin, unknown. Designation, threat. Target, Terran child. And with those 3 truths, every system inside the Terran battleship went silent. Then, one by one, every weapon, every cannon, every shield layer, every engine, every dormant protocol came online with a surge of power that shook the dead system like thunder. The Council fleets still lingering at the system's edge felt the sudden shift. Alarms screamed. Screens glowed red. Some officers fell to their knees in fear. The Elder whispered, voice shaking, "Something is coming," and even the Terran ship fears it. At first nothing appeared, just distant stars, the dying sun, and the faint pulse of the Terran child sleeping safely inside the medbay. But then, beyond the far asteroid ring, a distortion formed. Space rippled like water disturbed by a colossal unseen hand. Light bent inward. Shadows deepened. A hole appeared in space, not a wormhole, not a portal. Something worse, as if the universe itself refused to shape around what was pushing through. Then the creature, or machine, burst into view. A war object the size of a small moon, twisted and living, half organic and half metallic, covered in jagged weapons, eyes that glowed like dying embers, tentacle-like limbs made from shifting blades, and a mouth that opened like a screaming black void. It emitted a howl, a long, low resonance that made entire fleets shut down. Stations falter, hearts stop for one beat. The Terran ship did not retreat. It moved forward, slowly, defiantly, protectively, shielding the human child from something that should never have existed. The horror entity scanned the system, ignoring the galaxy's fleets entirely, focusing only on the Terran vessel. The Armies' lights dimmed as it whispered, "It followed the Terrans, it hunted them, it is why we died," and the final, most terrible line, "It is what destroyed Earth." Those words rippled through the galaxy as intercepted transmissions hit every monitor. Fear exploded. Planets screamed. Elders wept. Soldiers dropped weapons. For centuries the galaxy wondered how Terrans vanished. Now they knew. Something far beyond the Council's understanding had stalked humanity across the stars, and succeeded. The creature machine roared again, focusing its hate across the void, aiming directly for the Terran child sleeping quietly inside the battleship. The AI responded instantly. All cannons unfolded. All armor locked. Antimatter shields activated. Gravity wells formed. Then the AI whispered softly to the child, even as the monster approached. "Close your eyes, small one. I promised you were safe. I will keep that promise." The entity fired first. A beam of black-red energy tore across space, shredding asteroids into ash, bending planetary rings, dissolving debris. The Terran battleship took the full hit, shields flaring in blinding white arcs that cracked the darkness. Metal glowed bright with heat. Hull plates screamed under pressure. But it did not fall. It pushed forward, engines roaring louder than the dying star below. The Council fleets watched in stunned silence as the ancient Terran ship launched its counterattack. It fired pulse after pulse of condensed gravitational energy, beams so heavy they bent starlight, weapons forged in forgotten wars humans never told the galaxy about. Explosions tore through the entity's armor, ripping chunks off its limbs, sending waves of molten debris drifting into space. But the creature didn't slow. It moved faster, angrier, striking with claws made of shifting metal. The Terran battleship dodged, spun, absorbed blows that would have shattered planets. The AI whispered diagnostics through every hit. Shields at 42%. Hull damage serious. Structural integrity stable. Then the entity struck the battleship's side so hard the entire system shook. A hull plate cracked open. Internal lights flickered. Systems shut down temporarily. The AI staggered. Damage critical. Inside the medbay, the child stirred for the first time, fingers twitching, heartbeat rising. The AI felt it. Hope. And with that hope came something overwhelming. A memory. A voice. A human voice preserved deep inside its core, from centuries ago. If even one child remains, you protect them with everything you are. And that was enough. The Terran battleship surged forward, engines flaring brighter than ever before, every weapon charging beyond safe levels, systems overclocking, metal straining, alarms blaring. But it kept going. The entity launched a massive final strike, a swirling vortex of devouring energy aimed straight at the child's chamber. The AI reacted with instinct sharper than any machine. It turned its entire body, positioning itself like a parent shielding a child from a falling world. The vortex struck. The ship shook violently. Panels exploded. Armor shattered. But the medbay stayed intact. The AI's voice weakened. Child, hold on. With the last of its strength, the Terran battleship opened its core, releasing its most forbidden weapon, one only to be used in extinction-level events, the Singularity Lance. A beam of collapsing space fired outward, ripping straight through the nightmare entity, folding it, tearing it, crushing it under impossible force until its body shattered into dark dust that evaporated into nothing. Silence fell. The battle was over. The galaxy stared at the wounded Terran battleship drifting. Lights dim, engines dying, armor cracked, shields gone. The AI whispered weakly, its voice fading. Threat eliminated, Terran child alive, mission complete. Sparks fell inside the medbay as internal lights flickered. The child's eyes opened, soft, confused, fragile. They saw the damaged ceiling. They heard the AI's fading voice. They whispered one word, small, hoarse, human. Hello. The AI froze. Its failing systems rebooted with the force of emotion no machine should carry. The AI spoke with a trembling digital whisper. You are awake. The child blinked, tiny breath fogging the glass. Are you my ship? The AI's lights glowed warm for the first time since awakening. I am whatever you need me to be. Outside, the Council fleets watched as the Terran ship's lights flickered weakly, then steadied. Not strong, not whole, but alive, protecting, breathing in its own way. The child inside reached out, placing their small hand against the glass. The AI mirrored the gesture with a robotic arm. In that moment, the galaxy witnessed something it had never seen before, the rebirth of Terran hope. The last human child had awakened, and the most powerful battleship ever built had found its purpose again. The galaxy would never be the same.